Rock stars aren't just famous for their music. They're known for wild fights, broken friendships, and fiery egos. Some threw punches, others traded brutal words, and a few never forgave each other. Which of these unforgettable feuds shook the world of rock the most? Dave Mustaine versus Metallica. Dave Mustaine's departure from Metallica wasn't just another band lineup change, it was a bitter fallout that left scars on both sides. Mustaine, known for his fiery personality and incredible guitar skills, was unceremoniously kicked out of the band in 1983 due to his substance abuse and aggressive behavior. But it wasn't the dismissal alone that haunted him. It was the way it happened, being put on a bus from New York to California without much of a warning. The image of James Hetfield, often seen as the tough and stoic frontman, shedding tears during Mustaine's exit, added a layer of complexity to the split. Mustaine didn't just leave with hurt feelings, he left with a deep sense of betrayal that fueled his every move afterward. Determined to prove his worth, Mustaine formed Megadeth, pouring his anger and frustration into the music. While Metallica was soaring to global fame, Mustaine was always there, reminding them, and the world, that he had unfinished business. Every album, every interview, every riff seemed laced with an underlying message. You made a mistake. Metallica, never once to shy away from controversy, often responded with their own jabs. The rivalry played out in the media for years, with both sides trading insults that fans eagerly followed. Even when time softened some of the bitterness, the tension never truly disappeared. When Mustaine shared the stage with Metallica during the Big Four concerts, the history between them was palpable. Mustaine's journey from rejection to leading one of the biggest thrash metal bands wasn't just about success. It was a revenge story that became legendary. If Mustaine's story was about redemption through rivalry, the next fight was pure, unfiltered rage. Axl Rose versus Vince Neil. The feud between Axl Rose and Vince Neil is one of rock's most heated, blending personal drama with public spectacle. It all started when Vince Neil accused Izzy Stradlin, Guns N' Roses guitarist, of making inappropriate advances toward his wife, Charisse Ruddle. Neil, never one to shy away from confrontation, didn't waste time. At the 1989 MTV Video Music Awards, he allegedly punched Stradlin backstage, setting off a chain reaction that would span years. But the real fireworks began when Axl Rose stepped in to defend his bandmate. Axl, known for his fiery temper, didn't take the incident lightly. Instead of settling the matter privately, he lashed out publicly. Vince, being Vince, wasn't going to let it slide. He mocked Axl's attempts at retaliation, calling his punch weak and challenging him to a fight anytime, anywhere, even naming Atlantic City as a possible venue. What made this feud unforgettable was the sheer audacity of both men. Neither backed down, and their insults only grew sharper as time went on. Neil's taunts were relentless. He painted Axl as all talk and no action, daring him repeatedly to settle things like men. Axl, on the other hand, fueled the fire with his own jabs, calling Neil out whenever he had the chance. Fans watched closely, waiting for the moment these two rock titans would finally face off. It never happened, but the tension between them remained thick for years. This wasn't just a clash of personalities, it was a collision of egos, both too proud to concede. While Neil and Rose were ready to throw fists, another feud turned downright childish despite its high stakes. Axl Rose versus Kurt Cobain. Axl Rose and Kurt Cobain were bound to clash. Their music, personalities, and philosophies couldn't have been more different. Axl, the wild frontman of Guns N' Roses, embraced the excesses of rock. Big shows, loud lifestyles, and a rebellious image. Cobain, leading Nirvana's grunge revolution, rejected everything Axl stood for. He was raw, anti-establishment, and saw glam rock's flashy world as hollow. The tension between them was simmering long before it exploded in public, but when it did, it became unforgettable. The 1992 MTV Video Music Awards was where everything boiled over. Courtney Love, never one to hold back, sarcastically asked Axl if he'd be the godfather to her and Cobain's daughter. Axl, known for his short fuse, didn't take it as a joke. His aggressive response telling Cobain to control his wife sparked an instant reaction from Kurt, who mockingly played along, telling Love to shut up with a grin. It was a brief but fiery exchange that highlighted how much these two icons despised each other. Cobain often criticized Guns N' Roses in interviews, calling them out for their perceived materialism and misogyny. Axl, feeling attacked, fired back by accusing Nirvana of being fake and riding on Cobain's troubled image. Their feud wasn't just about personal dislike, it was a battle of ideologies in the rock world. Fans were divided, choosing sides in what felt like a clash between two different generations of music. From verbal barbs to unexpected insults, the next rivalry stemmed from bruised egos and competitive spirit. Van Halen versus David Lee Roth. The feud between Van Halen and David Lee Roth wasn't just another case of a band parting ways with its frontman. It was a battle of egos that spanned decades. Roth was the face of Van Halen during their rise to fame, known for his over-the-top stage presence and sharp humor. But behind the scenes, tensions between him and the Van Halen brothers, especially Eddie, were brewing. Creative differences and clashing personalities led to Roth's departure in 1985, and while both sides continued to find success, the bitterness never really faded. What made the feud boil over was Van Halen's decision years later to have Roth open for them. For someone who had built his image as a leading man, this felt like a direct insult. Roth hadn't opened for anyone since 1979, and the idea of playing before the band he helped propel to stardom didn't sit well. His response was quick and cutting, comparing the experience to going from speedballs to milkshakes, a jab that didn't go unnoticed. Roth's sarcastic humor masked his deep frustration, but the message was clear. He wasn't about to take a backseat to anyone, especially not to his former bandmates. The feud wasn't just about stage time, it was about pride. Roth believed his charisma and style had been crucial to Van Halen's success, while the band felt they had evolved past him. The back-and-forth jabs, public digs, and heated interviews painted a picture of a relationship beyond repair. Even during brief reunions, the tension was hard to ignore. Roth's flamboyant personality clashed with Eddie Van Halen's perfectionist drive, creating a rivalry that kept fans hooked for years. Pride also played a massive role in a feud that even inspired a diss track, Nikki Sixx versus Sully Erna. The feud between Nikki Sixx of Mötley Crüe and Sully Erna of Godsmack wasn't just another fleeting clash in rock history, it was a long, bitter exchange that left both sides bruised. What started as an internal disagreement turned into a full-blown war of words, with both rockers refusing to back down. Erna, known for his blunt honesty, didn't hold back when expressing his dislike for Sixx, but it was his song, Crying Like a... that really ignited the flames. Writing a track aimed directly at Sixx was a bold move, and it made their feud impossible to ignore. Sixx, never one to stay silent, brushed off the song with his usual swagger, but it clearly hit a nerve. He often portrayed Erna as someone desperate for relevance, and that only fueled Erna's fire. During an appearance on the Yasta show, Erna doubled down, calling Sixx pompous, egotistical, and irrelevant. These weren't offhand remarks, they were calculated shots meant to sting. Erna mocked Sixx's image, branding him a washed-up rock star clinging to past glory. Sixx, on the other hand, dismissed Erna's comments as petty jealousy, but the tension between them was undeniable. Fans watched as the feud played out through interviews and social media, each side taking every opportunity to hurl insults. It wasn't just about music, it was about pride and perception. Erna felt Sixx represented the excess and arrogance that gave rock a bad name, while Sixx saw Erna as an upstart trying to punch above his weight. Their war of words became one of the most talked about rivalries in modern rock, proving that sometimes insults can be just as powerful as any fistfight. While words were their weapons, another feud dug deep into personal finances and betrayal. Courtney Love versus Dave Grohl. Courtney Love and Dave Grohl's feud wasn't just about music. It was tangled in the legacy of Kurt Cobain and the millions that came with it. Love, always vocal and unfiltered, made it clear that she believed Grohl had unfairly benefited from Nirvana's success while she and her family struggled. Her accusations weren't subtle. She blasted Grohl publicly, claiming he was living luxuriously off Nirvana's royalties, while her family, including Cobain's relatives, faced financial hardships. The image of her sister-in-law living in poor conditions while Grohl reportedly bought an Aston Martin was a story she told often, making sure people knew where her anger stemmed from. Grohl, known for his laid-back persona, rarely fired back directly, but that didn't mean he wasn't affected. He maintained that his earnings were legitimate given his contributions to Nirvana, but Love wasn't buying it. She accused him of exploiting Kurt's legacy, and their feud played out in interviews, social media rants, and legal battles over Nirvana's music rights. It was messy, deeply personal, and uncomfortable to watch at times. Fans were caught in the middle, torn between their admiration for Grohl's work with Foo Fighters and sympathy for Love's situation. Even after years, the tension between them lingered, making it one of the most emotionally charged feuds in rock. Financial disputes aside, some feuds began over more primal matters like love, Joey Ramone versus Johnny Ramone. The feud between Joey Ramone and Johnny Ramone wasn't born from clashing egos or musical differences, it was personal, and that's what made it sting so much more. At the heart of it all was Linda Danielle, Joey's girlfriend, who eventually left him for Johnny. For Joey, it wasn't just about losing a romantic partner, it was about being betrayed by someone he considered a brother. The Ramones, often seen as the pioneers of punk rock, suddenly found themselves torn apart by a love triangle that would leave deep scars. Joey, known for his quiet and reserved personality, took the breakup hard. Johnny, always the more aggressive and stoic one, showed little remorse. Their bandmates could feel the tension, but the two kept it professional, at least on stage. Offstage, it was a different story. They barely spoke for nearly 2 decades, communicating only when necessary for the band's work. Fans started noticing the distance, but few knew the real reason behind it until years later. The betrayal became one of rock's most talked about love stories, not because it was dramatic, but because it broke one of music's most iconic bands from the inside. Even as they continued to perform together, the emotional gap between Joey and Johnny never closed. When Joey was diagnosed with lymphoma, many hoped it would bring some form of reconciliation. It didn't. Johnny later admitted that while he respected Joey's talent, the personal wounds were too deep for him to reach out. Joey's death in 2001 marked the end of any hope for closure. The Ramones gave the world punk anthems that still resonate. But behind the music was a story of love, betrayal, and 2 bandmates who never mended what was broken. Which of these legendary Rockstar feuds left the biggest mark on you? Share your take in the comments below.